and welcome to another session of Chats with Charnie, and also welcome to my new hair. Today we'll be discussing cost affordability, so the costs that you need to research or look out for when you're moving to a new country. This includes rent, transport, grocery shopping, takeout, and also a little bit of your salary. So stay tuned. So number one, and the most important cost that you're gonna have on your budget, is your rent. So rent can cost anything from 1,400 up if you're in Europe, and 1,600, 1,400 as well up if you're in the United States. So when I lived in Dublin, I paid 1,400 euros for a one-bedroom apartment. The reason why I chose a one-bedroom apartment and not to live with somebody else was because I knew that my parents were going to be frequent visitors, and I didn't want to make my female roommate feel uncomfortable, or I didn't want to make her feel inconvenienced. I also knew, because my dad would be visiting me, that it might make her feel uncomfortable with the situation, knowing that a man is in the house and she doesn't know the man. So anyway, that was my reasons. So it was out of respect as well as out of comfort for myself and for my parents. Rent is expensive. My rent was more than half my salary, if not, yeah, I think it was definitely more than half my salary. A huge expense, but I was still able to travel, as you can see on my Instagram. When I moved to the United States, my rent was $1,800. I had a very spacious apartment. I housed many of my friends as well as my parents, so it was quite spacious. There were apartments that were going for cheaper. There were also apartments going for way more expensive than I was paying. Another thing you want to keep in your mind when you're thinking about rent is utility costs. So this is your water, your electricity, your gas, your heating, your sewage, trash removal. All of these things are not included in the rent prices which I just quoted you. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're thinking of moving to Dublin, water is free. The Irish are not going to ever pay money for water. They are not about that life. So definitely research popular websites that have available or vacant apartments on their website. See how much it roughly costs. Look at the areas that you're interested in. Research possible areas that you can live in, and then make your decision from there. But regardless of what rent you'll pay, you will still be able to travel, eat well, and have a good life. Another important cost is going to be your transport. So depending on where you're staying or which continent you decide to live on, it could be anything up to 3 euros. So when I lived in the United States, my one-way trip, so this is from one destination to another destination, which could be up the road or 10 stops from where you are, was $2 per trip. Now, what the nice thing about the United States, or where I lived, which was Virginia and DC, was that if I booked another, or if I took another bus within the next, I think 2 hours, the next trip was free, which is amazing and a big cost saver, especially if you're taking multiple buses to get to your destination. So that was great. And then I used the bus as well as the metro. So the metro is all about distance. So if you're traveling for a longer distance, you're going to pay more. Also, if you're traveling in peak times, your cost is also going to be higher than when you're traveling in off-peak times. When I was in Dublin, a bus could cost like €2.85, and this would depend on also how far you're going. So the bus in America was, it doesn't matter how far you're going, but the bus in Dublin was, if you're going for 2 stops, you're going to pay for 2 stops. If you're going to go for the entire distance of the route, you'll be paying the full $2.85. Now the same was for the tram as well as for the DART. So the DART is the train in Dublin. It depends on how far you're going, that's how much money you'll be paying. Now you need to make the decision, am I going to be traveling by car, which means you have to purchase a car, and licenses and things like that are very expensive outside of South Africa, if that's where you're traveling from. And so research those costs. or if you're going to use public transport. Now, public transport is safe. When I lived in Dublin, when I traveled in the rest of Europe, and when I lived in United States, public transport was safe and was very affordable. I didn't have any need for a vehicle other than when I lived in Dallas, Texas, because Texas is so huge. I needed to have a car to get from point A to point B. But the point I'm trying to make is research how much transport and public transport costs in the country that you want to go to. Another tip here is that if you want to travel to Luxembourg, or if you want to move to Luxembourg, transport is free. Now, grocery shopping. So this is something that is super important for me. There's a few things that I always look out for when I move to a new city, and the thing that's on top of my list is my grocery store. So when I was living in Europe, I was not paying a lot of money for my groceries. If I paid like 30 to 40 euros, that means I was buying a lot of food, or I was trying to be bougie that week. So it is not required of you to be spending a lot of money when you do grocery shopping in Europe. The two stores that I like to do my grocery shopping at is Lidl and Aldi. I do know that they are across Europe, and they are more your cheaper range of grocery stores, and obviously you do have your higher end as well. I generally don't go there unless I want something really nice. America, that's a different story. That is a different land completely. So the first time I went to a grocery store was in Dallas, Texas, and I went to Walmart, and I was just buying detergents and toiletries, and I maybe bought like 2 packets of chicken and spices, obviously. I walked out there $75 poorer that day. I could not believe that I had spent $75 on not even food, and that wasn't even the most expensive that I've paid for groceries while living there. Like I don't like thinking about it, and every time I went to the grocery store it did hurt. However, I might have paid more for groceries, but I was compensated really well in order to afford that high rent I spoke about earlier, as well as my groceries, and I'll speak about that in the next segment. Now it's on to takeout. One of my favorite things about living in the United States was that takeout was so cheap. And when I talk about takeout, I'm referring to McDonald's, Wendy's, Popeyes, KFC, Burger King. Side note to South Africans, KFC is not the same in United States. There's no burgers, there's no kernel meal, there's no tower meal, there's no box meals. It's not a thing. So don't even try and do it. Okay, moving on. So takeout is quite cheap. The nice thing about the United States is that they actually have these awesome deals. So when we would go to McDonald's, it would be 2 for $3. So 2 burgers for $3. One day my boyfriend and I went to McDonald's. He walked out with, I think, 3 burgers. I walked out with 2 burgers. We both had fries, and I had like a large drink, and it was like $11. It was amazing. We also went to Popeyes, which is like fried chicken, Louisiana style fried chicken. It's really good, by the way. And you can get like a 2-can dine, which is 5 pieces of chicken, chips, and another side for $8.99, which is blissful. So obviously I know all these prices because I bought it so often. So as you can probably tell, I spent a lot of money collectively on all my takeouts. But when I was in Ireland, however, takeout is a bit more expensive. So you'll pay between 7 euros to like 15 euros for like a decent takeout at McDonald's, KFC. Okay, sometimes McDonald's here does have like specials, but you are going to be paying more for it. So that actually wasn't quite an incentive for me to eat out while I was living here. So I would actually go to the store and buy my food instead of going to a takeout. I would buy groceries and make the food, or I would buy ready-made meals from places like Tesco or Marks and Spencer or Super Value, places like that. So keep those things in mind. What you can do is just go on the go on any site for like cost of living in a certain country, and they'll tell you like basic prices for McDonald's burgers and things like that. But it's not going to break your bank, and it's not going to make you poor. So if you want to eat out, go ahead and do it. Restaurants are going to be pricier. Naturally, that's just the way things are, I think, in every country. So in Europe, it is more expensive to eat out. You can be paying like 30 euros up for a decent meal. If you go to the United States, it might be slightly less depending on where you're going to eat, but it can like range from anything from like 20 to however much you're willing to pay for a night out. So keep that in mind, and also just have fun. Love. Okay, so I said I'll speak about it, and here it is. Salaries. So I'm sure you guys are like dying to know what's the salary ranges like, especially if you're a chartered accountant, because that's the field that I'm in. So I can tell you that when I moved to Dublin, I was paid considerably more than when I lived in South Africa. When I moved to the United States, I was paid significantly more than what I was being paid in Dublin. And I think it's because of the cost of living in the United States, which was quite higher, as you can tell from the previous segments. And in Dublin, things were slightly cheaper. So to put it into perspective, when I say significantly higher, I mean that I was paid double my salary in the United States than compared to Dublin. So I was doing the exact same job. Actually, I was working less hours. I wasn't working weekends, and I was being paid more. You can tell that I really loved living in the United States. I was working a 9 to 5, I was getting paid more, and I had all my weekends. So take that into consideration. Money is not everything. If you want to live in Europe, enjoy the traveling. One of the things that was a downside for me about living in the United States is that traveling within the United States was so expensive. I remember paying like over $300 to travel to Texas for one weekend, whereas when I traveled to Italy, it cost me 50 euros for a round trip. When I traveled to Spain, to Barcelona, it cost me 80 euros or 120 euros for a round trip. So living in Europe and earning less than what you would have if you had moved to the United States has its perks. So consider those. I think somebody told me while I was in the United States that they paid over $1,000 to travel within the same country. That is ridiculous. If you put that in rands, it's over 15,000 rand to travel in the same country. So keep that in mind. That's it, guys. Another session of Chats with Charnie is over. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments if there's any topic that you'd like me to explore and like me to shed some light on. Have an amazing day, and thanks for watching this video. Bye.